Starting the recording. I am the moderator for today's session, which is titled Aligning AI Tools with the ACRL Framework, Leveraging Perplexity AI to Support Student Learning. Before we get started, we have a couple of reminders. We do have a code of conduct, which I will be dropping the link to in chat momentarily. If you experience any issues or you have any concerns related to conduct during this presentation, please contact us at the email, which I will also drop into chat. You can enable the captions by clicking on the Show Captions button at the bottom of the screen. Please be sure that your microphone is muted. During the Q&A session, please wait until you are called upon to unmute before you're asking your question or making your comment. You can also use chat for questions, and I'll be monitoring chat, and the session is being recorded. So it is my pleasure to introduce our presenters. Justin Kani is the Economics Business Librarian from Weber State University, and Denise Wetzel is the Science and Engineering Librarian for Pennsylvania State University Libraries. She's also the Patent and Trademark Resource Center Librarian for the libraries. So please join me in welcoming Justin and Denise.
All right, well, thank you, everybody, and good afternoon. What I want to do first is just sort of give a little bit more introduction to well, myself, and then give Denise a chance. So at Weber State University, we have about 13,000 students. We are regional for the most part. We have about 2% international, and we're also open enrollment. As the Economics and Business Librarian, I also teach a credit course with English that's integrated, so all students have to take information literacy to graduate. And so from my perspective, teaching AI and also information literacy comes in a couple of different flavors, and that's essentially research consultations, working with students in mostly business and economics, then also working with students in one-shot sessions, as well as the 15-week course I teach, which has a really great information literacy component. And so those are some of the perspectives that I bring to this presentation. Denise?
All right. Hi, everyone. So I'm at a very large institution. So I'm part of Penn State University Libraries, and I'm actually at the University Park campus. So we are very big, a state institution. So it's a little bit of a different perspective than Justin, but I also think that's what makes this presentation really great, is you're getting multiple institution sizes and perspectives. I will say that I've been really into looking at AI in general and how we're looking and using it in the classroom, and also how we are using it within consultations. I've done a few presentations on using different tools, including like Research Rabbit, and that had been more in a consultation mode. And now I'm talking about using it in the engineering classroom. So I work a lot with our chemical and engineering folks within engineering. And so that's how I'm going to be kind of talking about using Perplexity within the concept of student learning.
All right, next slide. So quick overview of what we're going to talk about today. So we're going to give a basic overview of Perplexity. We made this presentation with the assumption that you might not have experience using Perplexity. Then we're going to talk about the critical evaluation sources, and that's really talking about the framework and talking about why we use Perplexity in the context of AI in 2024, which is relatively new. Then we're going to talk about the examples that we currently apply in our classrooms. And then we're going to do kind of a wrap up of that. And then what the last piece is, and as the outcomes talked about, is we're going to give everybody an opportunity to sort of practice and think about that metacognition of the librarian-student relationship around AI. And so you'll get to use the examples that we've been using in breakout rooms. So if we first wanted to get a quick snapshot of the audience just to see where everybody's at. So we're going to send out a poll just asking about your familiarity with Perplexity. I'm going to launch that now. Okay, it looks like it's been launched. Okay, looking at it, we got 71 out of 90 participants. Right now, it looks like I've never heard of Perplexity is at 19%. I've heard of Perplexity, but never used it as 45%. I frequently use Perplexities at 6%, and I've used it in the classroom as around 4%. So that's great. Looks like this is more of a newer tool, which is a perfect segue in the next section where Denise will talk a little bit about Perplexity and why we specifically use it as the AI tool for teaching.
Okay, I'm gonna get started, and thank you. There's a lot of screens going on right now. All right, y'all. So we're gonna start off with a brief kind of introduction about getting started with using Perplexity AI. So Perplexity launched in 2022, and they kind of like to go by the name of Swiss Army knife, in the fact that they are the Swiss Army knife of information discovery. And so it is a chatbot powered research and conversational search engine, and it answers questions using a natural language predictive text. So it's going to be very conversational, and it's kind of similar to the ChatGPT. So students will feel, if they've used ChatGPT, which a lot have played around with that chatbot and some others, they'll feel very comfortable because it'll work out a little bit similar. It does generate, though, its answers and its sources using sources from the web, and it'll actually provide links with all of the text responses. And one thing about Perplexity to know is that it does use a freemium model, in the respect that users have the choice of using the free or professional account. I will say that actually something that's really wonderful about Perplexity is when you're looking at it, sharing it in class, you actually don't have to create an account to use it. And this is something that's really wonderful because it's going to help with those privacy concerns that you might run into with some other AI tools. And then also you can use this free model. You can get up to 5 pro searches a day, but you get as many quick searches as you want. And most searching you do is quick searching. The pro searching is really just going to give you a little bit more capabilities, and you can select your preferred AI model that Perplexity is using. But I will say that when you're talking about this, the free model works really well if you're going to be using it a lot with students in the classroom, because they can then save their searches and they have that record. But even just going on to Perplexity and using it the way it looks without creating an account works really wonderfully in a classroom. So to get started with Perplexity, if you've created your account, then what it will do is it will prompt you and say, hi, that you can ask your first question. It'll show different questions. I feel like every time I come on to Perplexity, it's different questions, which is really wonderful. And then also something that's nice is there is a app. So if someone is a phone user or a tablet user in the classroom and they don't maybe have a laptop with them, then if they have the smartphone or the tablet, they can use the app, like from the Apple App Store or from the Google Play Store, and download it so they can use Perplexity as well. So that gives a little bit of a little bit more usability in the classroom, depending on what method of getting to the tool itself the students are using. Whenever you're asking questions to Perplexity, you are able to upload files. So you can ask questions, you can type them out and just use plain text, but you could upload code, or you could use a PDF format. And then it'll use that file, Perplexity itself will use that file to formulate the answers. Another thing that's really great about Perplexity is when we're thinking about the different the different, the different ways that we can get answers from it. So you can actually narrow your searching down using specific sources. So I could say, hi, I'm doing a search. Most of the time you come in there, you use that box, the main search box, and it's just going to search all. So it's looking across the entire internet. But if you're using it and you're wanting your students to only see academic sources, you could actually just use those academic research publications. So you're getting some more science-backed answers. It allows you to search YouTube, so that way it can search YouTube and actually searches the transcripts within there. And so it's really great if you're looking at like product reviews or something and how-tos. And I find really fun is it searches Reddit. So, you know, Reddit, maybe if you're going to be talking about searching Reddit, you can talk about, you know, kind of going through the different discussions you'll see on Reddit, just because they can be all over the place, but can be really great for genuine feedback, and it can give you suggestions. For 99% of searching, especially the first time in like an undergraduate classroom, all is quite fine. So how you get started. But if you're really wanting to kind of get down into a really academic, it's really nice to look at the academic side of the search features. I also like to talk about the fact that when I'm using Perplexity, it's really helpful for multilingual learners. So many of our institutions, we have students from all over the world are coming to our campuses, and they might be bringing, you know, multiple languages. They might have sources that are familiar to themselves. And actually with Perplexity, you can search and find answers in 28 languages. So it's not limited to just English. It includes formal writing. It includes informal writing. It can even have regional offshoots from the different areas that a person might be looking at. And because it's that chatbot style reference, it's really kind of helpful for some of our multilingual users. And it might let a student, you know, again, have that preferred access within their preferred language. So when you get started, a lot of times it looks just like this. They'll say, this is where knowledge begins. And it will look like, if I go on to Perplexity right now, this is what it's looking like, where knowledge begins. And like I said, you can do that focus, but if you just ask a question, and my favorite question to ask is, do jellyfish increase with climate change? I'll just ask, do jellyfish increase with climate change? And so when I get my answers, what you're going to see here, it's generating it rather quickly. It does very quickly again. You'll notice I did not toggle on the pro search because the fact is I have 5 searches left for today, but I also don't need to for this search. I felt like it's a pretty straightforward. I'm not needing to narrow it down too much. So when I get my results, what you'll see here is my output. And usually the output is a short paragraph or a few shorter paragraphs. So it's going to be about or under 400 words. And anytime there's a paragraph generated like this, you are going to actually see our citations. So you'll see that we have sources right here at the top. And if I wanted to actually click into those, I can easily click and it's going to take me to that source. So it's all linked right here. I can also, as I'm reading through, if I see something I like, it's going to let me click onto the little superscripts and the circles that you'll see. There will be images. If there's images associated, I can search videos. I can also generate images. And then what's really great is it's prompting me. So Perplexity is like, this is what you're looking at. And then it says, do you want to keep exploring that? So what do you want to know more about jellyfish? Because what's happening here is I am searching Perplexity in real time. It's not a canned where it's like uploaded all the data. It's actually searching the web now. And so I can have that conversation then with students about the sources that are being pulled. And then I can actually click and see the sources that they used. I can ask a follow-up question quite easily using this page. So if I wanted to do a question like, why are there more jellyfish? I can ask that and it's going to continue to answer me, and it's kind of building on what I've already used. And so I really like that because of the fact that it's going to all keep this together. If I have an account, right now I am logged in, but I wouldn't need to, and I could log out. It'll have everything saved for me to come back. I can even ask location specific questions. So if I want to ask something about where I live, because it's online and searching everything, it is going to be able to answer questions about where I am right now. And so this is kind of a quick overview, and our slides show something really similar. We just had this, just in case the internet decided, or the Perplexity went down or whatnot. One thing that I didn't share is the fact that when we talk about finding your results, you might also want to share what you found. A student might have these to link out to other students if they're working in a group or their instructor. And so you can actually share the link for what you found. There's a copy link, but you can also share on X/Twitter, Facebook, or WhatsApp. So these are some of the ways to share your findings. And I'm going to turn it over to Justin.
Okay, so now that you've seen some perspective on Perplexity, what we'd like to talk to you now is about that critical evaluation piece, right? Because AI kind of came onto the market with ChatGPT, and faculty were really worried about how well it wrote, but it wasn't about actually the citation and the conversation happening. So the critical evaluation skills we still teach in the library and in the classroom is still essential. And so I wanted to just talk briefly about that in the context specifically about the ACRL framework. Next slide. Excuse me. So our premise with using Perplexity and why we were really excited about it was that for AI for secondary research, it's valuable when adhering to rigorous research principles like transparency and verifiability. So when we think about ChatGPT and when it came on, it was that unethical or opaque use that really undermined the credibility of people writing papers and classes, et cetera. And so again, what I got really, when I first saw Perplexity, I was excited because when we think about the way in which academic research is done, it's because we have transparency specifically through citations. And Perplexity became another tool in our toolbox to teach information literacy rather than the other way around. Next slide. So with AI and specifically using Perplexity in Classroom, teaching evaluations methods like CRAP, 6-question words, which are just two amongst many, alongside using a system like lateral reading, where of course you bring up those tabs and you have students kind of verify the citations, look up information. These are essential pieces that play well with Perplexity versus other systems that I've looked at. And that critical evaluation piece still needs to be taught in the classroom alongside Perplexity. But at the same time, again, we're talking about freshman students largely in this example. And so, we're just getting students the basic understanding of maybe how to use AI and then be able to teach them how to still use the library resources. Next slide. So kind of pulling this all together with the framework research as inquiry, these are actually kind of pulled right from those ACRL frameworks. So I'm going to read them briefly, but I'd like just quickly summarize. So, research is an iterative process and really depends on complex or new questions. As we know with our freshman students, if they're going to write an 8 to 10 page paper or they don't know much about a topic, that process of broadening or narrowing their topic is some of the most challenging. I call it the search abyss because you're really trying to get students scaffolded to be able to see. And then the knowledge, monitoring, gathering, and assessing information and maintaining an open mind, critical stance. And so Perplexity, by providing citation, really allows students then not only to understand the topic, summarize the topic and different aspects in the conversation, but they're able then to go into those sources, find additional sources, and also to see if the actual software is actually exaggerating or if it actually cited the information in post. And this is layered upon that conversation, right? So when we're seeking multiple perspectives and the information gathering, that's where, as Denise showed, Perplexity is pulling from a variety of sources every time. Next slide. So what we'd like to do now is to give an overview of specific examples that we teach in a classroom, with the idea that we'll finalize it by breaking out into groups, and everyone can then use the templates we have to sort of experiment a little bit. Next slide. So one thing that Denise and I both do in the classroom is really it's about preparing. And so we really like doing that through Google Docs. I teach in a classroom that has computers. And so a lot of the information I prepare is through Google Docs. As I mentioned in my freshman orientation class around information literacy and composition, we definitely use Google Docs. Students have that availability right within our suite at the university. And so I have students work individually in my Google Doc, so then they can submit it into Canvas. Next slide. And so as you can see, you know, that allows that sharing with instructors. Also, it's a one-shot session. And it also provides some of those reviews. You know, we can ask what confused students, what went well, does everything need tightened up by being able to share these in assessment phase. Next slide. Okay, great. So what my example is going to be, and I just want to look at the time real briefly, make sure we're doing pretty well on time, is going to be on social media and health example. This question comes up at least 4 or 5 times in my class. Students want to do social media in some form of health, but as we know, it's very broad. And so I've been introducing Perplexity in the classroom using this framework I'm going to show next. So the example I have here is you can take a QR code, but we'll also share this out to you. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have Denise actually demonstrate this, but I'm going to go into the document that I use in class. And if you click that bit.ly link, and so this is the document that we work in class with. Again, remember that I'm already teaching students about authority, you know, evaluation. So that's in conjunction with this. But you can see that the first prompt I'm asking students, and to copy this, is I am searching the topic, and it provides them with the ability to write those words down. What is the conversation and research happening on this topic? What are the controversies or disagreements? And so this is the example that students will fill out, and then the class example, which I put social media and health effects down below. And what we'll do is we're going to copy this, and then we are going to put this into Perplexity. So I'm going to click on new thread. Yeah. Right. And then based on this prompt, and you'll get to see this in person, so I'm trying not to take too much time, but you could see that it's already breaking down the information about potential negative effects. It has citations. The one I put in my next example is fear of missing out. If you scroll down further, it also talks about call for regulation and reform and need for further research. So based on that easy prompt, you're letting students sort of see the larger landscape of this particular topic with the ability to then verify the information. If we go back to my topic here, now what you can see is that in the bold, I'm asking students to lateral read and verify the summary points. And so under Perplexity, what you're doing is you're having students put that link from the actual source cited into the document so they have that. That second question where it says authority, did the source confirm what Perplexity said, is making sure that it's not hallucinating and that the information it's purported to say is true on the topic is. You can also see where this is starting to develop a little bit of skepticism towards what AI is, you know, available. And then lastly, always asking students, do they have additional ideas? Do they have additional maybe ways to scope the topic? And then down below, what additional keywords might you use in your research? This allows you also as an instructor or librarian to also have these conversations personally, one-on-one. And so now what I'm going to do is you can see that it says questions for a student. Is there a subtopic you'd like to mention? And then the example is social media and fear of missing out. So down below in the blue, we're going to ask Perplexity one more time, this time to narrow the topic with the fear of missing out. Now we get 5 additional news sources, and I see the first one, and this is of course live, is it's Sage. So we're already getting some journal articles, which is really nice within that. So this is going to give you the ability in the next realm, next part of this, to also be able to have some more connection with students around scholarly articles. So for time's sake, so we can click back on the documentation researcher topic. What we're doing is, again, asking for students one more time to kind of verify information. This can be changed depending on the scope of your class and how long it is. And then where it says looking through the sources that Perplexity provided you, what sources did they cite? So now we're asking students to kind of connect back to the library, back to the librarian, pick out a few additional sources that may be used for your topic and find them using the library, Google Scholar, or Perplexity. Ask your librarian for finding them. So again, that search abyss, now we're saying, okay, we're going to bring this back into, now you know more about the topic, we're going to bring this back into the library, back into the information literacy landscape. To conclude on mine, you can see where it says Perplexity, summarize our conversation, including the topics we talked about and follow-up. So that's going to be the last prompt we ask students to put in this. And what it will do now is it's going to provide the student with a log of their research during your session, which they can then paste again into their Google Doc. This also allows the librarian or instructor to see their logic and the kind of things they looked at. Okay, so if we go on to the next slide, Denise will briefly go over her example. We have about 20 minutes left, so this will give us about 10 minutes or so to have some time for your actual interaction with the assignment.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to talk about an early career engineering classroom. So generally first year, very early career in the engineering majors students. And so one of the things that I like to share about also is whenever I'm crafting assignments, I do everything possible to have group work. I think groups are the best. I also think that most people will not end up working solo. They will work with others. So it's really good for them to be working in groups as much as they can. Additionally, because I'm doing group work and I like to have a sharing moment afterwards, it doesn't put one person on the spot. People can take on roles within the group, and that can kind of help them work out as they're going through. So this is an example of the assignment that I have for us to look at. And this one, again, is for an engineering first year class. And so I'm gonna go ahead and click on it. And so what we see here is, yes, okay. The directions of how this will work. So first off, I will have a class, and usually when I'm thinking about this, these are classes of students that want to become chemical engineers, but they might be still early, they're still kind of figuring out what they want to do. So I will ask the students to group, and then depending on how many students are in my groups, if it's a smaller group of 3, then we could have a note taker, a researcher, and a speaker. If we are in groups that are larger than that, we will, I'm sorry, Anna, you have a question? No, okay. So we will have people take on multiple roles. So there could be more than one note taker and more than one researcher within this. And what we do is we go through, I've already kind of introduced Perplexity, and now we're doing the activity. So this, I love to use this as the Google Doc. It has all the information they need about the assignment at the top, and then where we're going to be putting everything in as a class, because again, this will go back to the instructor to go back to the students. So what I'll have, and I have an example here, I'll ask the group to like figure out what about chemical engineering in your group, or what do you want to learn more about when it comes to chemical engineering. So this will be what I'm interested in, and then I'll use this as my prompt. And if I was to go back here and do this search again, I can do my search, and then I kind of walk through, I'm so sorry, how this functions. So here's what I was looking at, my question, and then here's my answer. And based on this answer, based on what interest, I created a question. I'm sorry about that. I created a question, and then based on what the answer was, I asked them to input the sources they got, because part of that is, again, evaluating sources. So when I asked this question, what materials, the answers came back as like University of California, Davis College of Engineering, Chemical and Engineering News, U.S. Department of Energy. And so they can kind of evaluate, and we'll talk about, what, if I would want to use them, maybe I would want to look further. And then I'm asking them to think about whatever they've reviewed and to narrow their results further. So this one, it was like looking at MOFs and what are examples of them. And it's just, again, it's very early. They're still trying to figure out where they want to go and what they want to do, but it's giving them a chance to play around. It's giving them a chance to kind of explore and think about those sources, just like Justin was talking about. And so this is great because then if I have like 8 groups or I have, less groups, I am able to easily have this one document for everyone to come back to. So this is kind of like my favorite version of doing this. And this is that QR code really big again. I just like to have it on everything. I have found it's really helpful when I'm using Google Docs in this respect to have a bit.ly and a QR code. That way, if someone's on a computer, they can use the bit.ly, and if someone is using like a tablet or phone, they can use the QR code. So after they've been in their groups, we had one person, or that was the note taker. So they were filling out this as their group was functioning. And then we had one person to be the researchers. They are the one wielding Perplexity and sharing the results. And so the note taker could complete the Google Doc. And then at the end, when the group comes back together, I ask the person as the speaker to share the results with the class, and we can have a conversation. And generally, I like to have 20 minutes for this activity. So we're going to go into the wrap up, kind of some key takeaways, and then we're going to move into the activity. We wanted to put this wrap up a little bit earlier in this, just because it kind of gives you some key takeaways as we are working through. So first off, Perplexity.ai, it's very flexible on research topics. As you have seen here, you can look at social media. We can look at jellyfish. We can look at carbon sequestration if we wanted to, but it has a range. So we're getting multiple areas. You don't have to use a login. That helps with privacy, also helps with time constraints. I know if anyone has you have so much teaching time in a classroom. And so logging in can take like 10 minutes by the time everyone's done. And then you've lost all this great, wonderful group time and discussion time. So that's something that's wonderful about it. It has relevant research that's really discoverable. And like I mentioned before, similar to ChatGPT, it is a chatbot when it's responding. So that way it is something that's familiar. It's what students are seeing. And so it doesn't seem too out there for them. Justin, I'll let you go ahead.
Yeah, and so we talked about the search of best, and I think based on the comments and the chat, we can really see how this helps students to understand the topic, the conversation. It helps narrow it and allows students to find additional sources. So especially at that freshman level, this research as inquiry really builds upon some of the skills they're learning in our information literacy instructions. But at the same time, it builds that critical aspect to also dealing with AI by verification. And then evaluation is still critical, which is what I love. It provides AI transparency that allows us as instructors to really embrace it, but also to show some of the things we need to look for, just like we do with any other conversation in the academic space. If we click on the next slide, what we were thinking is because of how big the groups were overall, in these sessions, we wanted to break you out into small breakout groups. And so instead of having like a large conversation at the end with questions, you can share ideas you have in your breakout groups. And so when we bring it back to the main thing, we have our email addresses, which you can email specifics. We'd love to hear if you use the documents and your thoughts on them through our email addresses. But we really encourage you with that librarian student interaction during your breakout groups to sort of talk about, your insights in this in a smaller group, just like in the classroom. Denise, do you want to kind of give a little overview on this?
Sure. So we are going to go into our breakout rooms for, I'm going to say 9 minutes at this point. So please copy this link. We're going to put it in the chat too. And here, I'll grab that. You're going to go into a breakout room and you're going to look at the benefits and drawbacks of universal basic income. You have the choice within your room to either do teaching example 1 or teaching example 2. 1 was the style I shared, and 2 was the style that Justin shared. So let me open the breakout rooms.
And we're just asking that you make a copy of this document so everyone will have their own individual copy.
And I will
And before you do send everyone out, just in case we lose people, I just want to remind people that there are closing remarks at 3:45.
oh no, let me find out what's happening with the bit.
Here, let me, I'm gonna copy it and I'm gonna paste it in the chat. I think there was a Google link error. Okay, so that link in the chat, which is in the main chat room, should provide you with that. And like you should become a viewer, and then like I said, you should be able to file and make a copy of it. So everyone will have their own document.
Let's see. And I don't feel like anyone's going into
I sent it individually to Jennifer. I'm sorry about that. Thanks. Okay.
um not assign everyone automatically.
Yeah, it's funny. It's like we're in a classroom right now, right? So we're looking at Zoom and trying to assign everyone just to a random room. But if not, you can just join a room that has people in it. And so as we mentioned, you can ask this person questions in the room while we're doing that. But what we'll do is we'll essentially plan to end this session after you're done your breakout groups. Yeah, so just while this is happening, anyone who's in the room, question is, and for the recording for people watching this afterwards, how do you usually approach this type of lesson plan with faculty, especially if you're in a one-shot session? Are they receptive using generative AI in the class? For me, essentially, this is the kind of assignment that I approach only when faculty are coming to me when they have questions about AI. So if they want to teach an angle with AI, this is the kind of assignment I bring. So as faculty are at different levels and comfort level.
Think I got there?
I mean, it's just amazing. Consensus and Perplexity. Those are the, two ones that kind of seem to be focused on here. And there were other things, but this has just gotten me like super excited again about Perplexity and Consensus.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
There's
that's good to hear.
there's so many, but they're so amazing. I just want to play. We are at 3:43. You are most welcome, Kelly. And I know the next session starts in 2 minutes. So quick thing on here. If you have questions, please reach out to Justin at Weaver, Justin Kani at weaver.edu. You can reach out to myself, DA Wetzel at psu.edu. I know it's quick, but hopefully you'll remember. And then also, thank you all for coming. This had dogs, so we had to show it.
Thank you very, very much.
Is
Thank
there
you.
another session? I thought it was done for the day, but
Closing
is there
remarks.
another one?
Closing.
Closing
Oh,
remarks.
the closing. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank y'all. This was awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you both.
Thank you. Mhm. Okay, I want to make sure people